Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we are going to conclude this seminar by looking into Muamalat from the point of view of the political discourse and the political hegemony. How today capitalism has taken this hegemony, how we can change this. Yesterday, just to recall, we were looking at political analysis, how understanding Muamalat allows you to see things that otherwise they will remain hidden. And I want to take from there and to move forward. One example that comes to my mind when it comes to analysis is the situation of a country, Ecuador, with a new regime. Suddenly, the new populist leader, Rafael Correa, became the new leader of Ecuador, and quite immediately started with renationalizing some of the key assets of Ecuador, the most important of which is oil. 50% of the exports is oil. It's quite a rich country, small but a rich country. In the Ecuador, same. They are in the Ecuador. We are at the same level as Singapore. Singapore, if you cross the line, come very close here. And this is the situation. This is, if you recall a little bit the figure, Rafael Correa. I don't know whether you are familiar with South American politics, but he is one of those people who have been defending the sovereignty of the Latin American nations against the big aggressor, which is the United States. And the politics of against Venezuela, it forced Correa to take a position very close to the Hugo Chavez at the time, and he was like a kind of that radical corner of South America that were very aggressive against the United States, against the aggression of the United States, simply defending their own sovereignty. So this is a case of somebody who is clearly anti-capitalist, absolutely convinced anti-capitalist, and he has good reason to do that, simply because what has happened in South America and how the intervention of these big corporations simply just treating these nations like banana republics. Go there, cheap labor, take the money, go away. And then you have the United States backing them up. That's how it has been. But here is the flaw. Here's the problem. The currency of Ecuador is the US dollar. They don't have their own currency. They don't have a currency because they had a crisis in 1999, and the government said, with an inflation that it was completely good, they said, well, forget it. We'll go back to the United States. It's one of those countries that is dollarized. And the other one, famous one, is Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, after an inflation of 3 figures, in the 1,000%, then the people just gave up, the government gave up, and they renounced their own currency in favor of the US dollar. While this will bring stability to prices, but what does it do to your politics? And here's the irony, and this is where the West gets stuck. This is a country that it will, under all circumstances, say that they are a sovereign country independent from the militarism and imperialism of the United States, and yet they have completely surrendered in the most humiliating way to the United States of America, which is to make your currency a peg, like the Arabs have done, but this is a step forward. Your entire currency is the US dollar. And they still thinking that somehow along the line they will liberate themselves and they will buy the policies that they are inducing, which is mostly is to bring back their own industries, especially mineral. They are big producers of gold and silver. They produce about, I think currently there are around 4 tons of gold, about 20 of silver. They could do a lot more. There is a new Canadian company came there, and they bought a new mine for 1.7 billion US dollars. If that's what they pay for, imagine how much gold they are expecting to obtain there. Apparently there's a whole area in Ecuador full of gold. Like Zimbabwe even more. Zimbabwe was at the beginning of the century was at par in production with South Africa because of the independence wars, etc., etc. The whole production has collapsed, but they could be in the region of 150 tons a year to 100 tons a year if they wanted to, in full production. So this is a country that actually is literally sitting down in a treasure, and the currency is the US dollar. Now what happens? Well, when you have one country that is using somebody else's currency, what is the big problem here? Is that they cannot produce the currency, but this country can produce the currency. So when Obama goes and says, okay, plus 30 trillion, okay, so they can buy Ecuador literally for the next 100 years. Just by pressing a button. And yet this is the policy of a left government who says everything that everything that they say is right. No, we want sovereignty, we want to be independent from the United States, etc., etc. And yet they are totally surrendered to the monetary issue. In other words, there is a blind spot. Okay, this is a matter that it has not entered into the political discourse, and this is what we are talking about. Political discourse as we will come along. This has been kept away, hidden, covered. They have no chance of catching up with the United States for the obvious reasons. And you cannot submit your sovereignty more deeper than making your own currency, the currency of every citizen in Ecuador, the currency of the United States of America. You see the irony, right? Now, when other countries like in Malaysia, we are different. We are not like that. Well, simply because we don't look into the matter. If you look at the reserves of Bank Negara, 98% of the reserves are US dollar denominated. And in other words, when the government wants to print more ringgit, they back it up with sufficient reserves in US dollars. Okay, the currency is not pegged, but it's almost pegged. I mean, this is just a matter of convenience. Like the Arabs don't even bother. They just the price, the exchange rate between the US dollar and the UAE dirham, for example, is fixed since I've been visiting there 20 years ago. Small variations of 0.1% perhaps. So you can see that this matter is something that it has been kept out of the political discourse. The people that they are speaking about this, ironically, the strongest voice against the US dollar, it doesn't come from the Muslim world, it comes from the United States. The people that they are saying the US dollar is a fraud, the people that they are saying that the Federal Reserve Bank is a criminal institution, a private criminal institution working against the interests of the American people. They are not the Iranians, not even Korea, not Mugabe in Zimbabwe, are senators from the United States. And now there is about originally 5, but there's about 13 states that they are looking into legislation that it will allow the introduction, the use of gold as legal tender, as currency, viable, useful for commercial exchange. Not legal tender, because legal tender is still a federal issue, but to allow through the legislation and they're invoking the constitution, the original constitution, in order to allow, on the basis of freedom, to allow the people to use gold and silver. Now, from this irony, I want to bring you to the idea of political discourse. Now, political discourse is to transform something that is just an event. It could be a dissatisfaction, it could be something that annoys you, into something that it makes political divide, that it makes the people take position. It could be anything. I mean, we have seen people rioting and taking stuff because the price of the bread went up. And for no other reason, the people go out into the streets and they start demonstrating. It could be because the tax may rise and rise and rise, but one day there is one little tax, and unexpectedly it brings the people into the streets, and it makes demands that they have never been in the political discourse. What qualifies as something that can become political? Really, anything that brings about some degree of conflict, it could be used. And we have seen that how political parties, for example, will use cases of corruption in order just to highlight their own case against the government. But it could be in Spain now, for example, one of the trigger points of the popular revolts, people going and demonstrating in the streets, was because of the los desahucios. How do you say that in English?
Throwing people out from the houses because
there's a word. Repossessing houses and throwing the people out. In Spain, it just went completely bizarre. And I mean, the irony that it was that the banks who had lent the money started accumulating properties in large scale, and they were empty, and the people were in the streets without a house. You know, and what triggered this massive repossession, it was a financial crisis. So people are saying, but what is my fault? I was paying just regularly and everything was well, and suddenly everything was astroflash. And not just me, but another several 100,000 people that lost their home because of this. And so the banks had empty houses that they couldn't sell, because if they put it in the market, the price will go down, you know, which is their own property. They don't want that, and it will create more negative equity. You know how it works, no? Mortgages. If you bought a house for, let's say, 500,000 ringgit, and the price goes down, then you may find yourself in a situation whereby what you owe to the bank is several times more than the value of the house on which the loan has been taken. This is called negative equity. And when this results in massive scale, then you have the people demonstrating, and it becomes part of political discourse. The meaning of becoming part of the political discourse is that reaction. And on the other hand, things that could be terrible in terms of economic conditions, we have seen that the population can just undertake them. They can just go through it, even if the prospects are very bad, but nothing will do anything. Nobody will move a finger. And so what the question here is, how something like what we are proposing, Muamalat, can turn into political discourse. Well, the first issue, naturally, is that you have to have a differentiated political analysis. You have to be able to show a different solution for a problem that is already running. You have to be able to find there is another alternative. We don't have to live in these conditions. We could live differently. We don't have to suffer the way we do. You know, the world could be different. And for that, you have to create that image. Quite naturally, the idea of political discourse and media comes together, because it is only when it becomes a sufficient number of people that it reaches to the quality of becoming political discourse. And here is the first reflection. Is that the creation of a political discourse requires alliances. If you want your idea to prosper socially, you have to bring it about. You have to put it into the hands, into the eyes, into the ears of people that they're already discontent. And you have to galvanize, you have to bring all these energies together and to create from them, move them into a particular direction. You have to create a consciousness. And you can take... so the first condition in order to do that is that you have to be quite flexible in order to create a political discourse. You will have to entertain, for example, alliances with people that they don't necessarily agree with everything that you think. Okay? For example, if you want to bring the golden hour, the natural allies will be those that they are content. For example, the opposition parties is to bring it to them, to bring it to the Islamic Party. But there are things in the Islamic Party that you don't agree upon. Okay? For example, these hudud laws that they have brought is completely crazy. But yet, if you want to create political discourse, you have to have a little bit of flexibility. And you have to engage with actors that they don't endorse every single idea that you have. This is where the singularity of the idea is important for. Now, the principle, the basic principle of gathering forces is that, for example, from the Leninist point of view, he used to speak about the workers, the peasants, and the soldiers, and the framework in which he galvanized a revolution, it was by bringing all these separate individuals all together under a singularity of discourse. And so, in his view, the workers will be the dominant, there will be a minority that they have these ideas, that defend these ideas, and they project, they lead other people, all the other discontent, into one particular direction. If we attain this, then we can change the hegemony. And this is the opposite of having a great idea, but just defending it on your own. Okay, you can have the greatest idea in the world, but if it doesn't reach political discourse, it doesn't go anywhere. So, rule number one, flexibility. You need to find allies, that they are not just 100% in agreement with the things that you do, but they represent discontent against the present affairs. And your skills are to be able to gather them into one particular, in the goal that you have in mind. The second thing is, you have to put it into practice. If there is no idea that stands just as an abstract idea, you have to be able, there has to be a way in which this can be implemented. And when it comes, for example, to something like gold currency, then you have to be able to bring the currency to the people. The impact that you have with a discourse like what we're doing now, or having the coins in the hand, or having a market where you can use it, is black and white. So, you have to create a scenarios where whatever is that you are proposing, it can be implemented, even if it is on a smaller scale. The scale here is not important, but the principle, the fact that it's already operating, is the key. And this is where, for example, the idea of a marketplace comes into the picture. If you want to speak about the importance of public marketplaces and you want to transform it into political discourse, then you need an example. You don't need 20 examples, you just need one. You need a model that you can bring forward, that people can visit and they can see and they can operate, and then they can acquire this principle. And if, on the other hand, the principle remains entirely intellectual, now the problem with that is that it will not have sufficient weight. It will have difficulties in order to expand it, or to extrapolate it, or to elevate it from political discourse into something that it can transform hegemony. So, first of all, you need to create a ground alliance from people that they have already a discontent. Secondly, you have to be able to bring it in a physical form, a model of it. It has to be able to be practical. And the third element is to do with the means. Now, the means, in order to bring a political discourse forward, we already said you need media, and because you have to be able to reach out, and in order to bring the matters, to have the people liberated, to go and entertain all these meetings with all these different parties, it takes time. It takes qualified people that they have to be liberated, they have to be professionally dedicated in order to create this idea. For that you need means. Now, the question about the means is where most of the political discourse becomes contaminated or becomes stuck. And here is the reflection that it makes this political discourse different when looked from an Islamic perspective. Because here, what is important is what is in favor and what is against. What are your natural allies and what are not? What are the means to achieve what you want and what are not? Now, if you take the question of Riba, which is the central element of all the discourse that we have started today, and you are saying to yourself, I want Riba to become the central political argument in Malaysia. I want the people to become aware of what this means. I want to make sure that we reach every discontented group that there is in the country. And I want to make it practical. Now, if you want to do that, you have to understand a fundamental thing. Everything that Allah has declared war upon is doomed. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Harb min Allahi wa Rasuli, this is an indication of politics of a different scale. If you want the people, if you want to create the means, to gather the means in order to achieve a political discourse, you have to recognize that everything is in your favor. You have to recognize that everything is working for you. And this should alter the way in which you tackle the next issue, which is hegemony. How do you achieve hegemony? But the means that everything is working for you. The US dollar is working for us. Inflation in Pakistan, which stands at 20%, is the best publicity that I can possibly have. So the irony is that, should I say that inflation is bad for Pakistan? Or maybe inflation is the best blessing that we have in Pakistan in order to bring the gold dinar. At 20% a year, it means that the people are robbed at a phenomenal scale, and that the rich elites of Pakistan are becoming more wealthy on a minute basis. But this inflation rate that we can see in Pakistan, soon they are going to become global. The time is going to come for something like this. Because the quantity easing, as they call it, in the United States is going to filter down inevitably. In 4 or 5 years, it will be all over the place. And to go back to 2-digit inflation is already been predicted. Probably this comes alongside with a major collapse in the financial markets that will be the end of the US dollar. Is the US dollar against us or in favor of us? Is it our enemy? What is our enemy? Only ignorance. But what are the means? The means are everything that works in our favor. Among the things where we have to identify as means is, for example, natural allies, like gold mining companies. Why? Because every gold mine in the world, you can go to them and you can say, I can create added value just by introducing gold and silver, coining gold and silver, and they are on your favor. The association of gold mines, countries that they produce gold mine, Ecuador, Zimbabwe, Saudi Arabia, companies that in Malaysia are mining gold and silver, as we know in Perak, I believe, and Pahang, and a little bit in Kelantan. These companies, they are already allies of us. They are means. The means is already there. In order to create a broader understanding of means, what you have to see is that the good and the bad, the enemies and the allies, they all merge under a singularity. The singularity of meaning, which is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made Riba forbidden. Therefore, every aspect of Riba that you have out there, you can transform it, you can assimilate it as part of your discourse. You have nothing but means. There is not one part of society affected by Riba that is not in your favor. There is nothing that capitalism is already doing that you cannot use against it. Capitalism is therefore the best means that you have in order to promote your ideas. What is happening in its totality is already the means to promote your ideas. So, if you take a broad approach, don't stuck with fundamentalisms, and you are capable of creating alliances with other groups. If you are capable of bringing your ideas into practice in a modular scale, so that there's a practical application of what you are saying, and if you understand a broad range of means, almost on every aspect of society, means in order to promote what you want, allies that can help you in what you want, then you can build a political discourse. The aim of the political discourse is to achieve hegemony. In other words, what you want is to alter the order of things. And this is what in politics will be known as the assault of power. You want to take power. At the end of the day, you want to be able to alter the things and to eliminate banking and follow the procedures of how something like this can happen. Create a transition, but the elimination of Riba must be the aim of something like this. And here, the question of homogeneity, hegemony, is critical in order to understand two things. One is, what is the thing that we want to obtain and how do you get it? And secondly, how do you gather the people in order to support this idea? Okay. And this is where we differentiate from everybody else. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And there is no but. There is only la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. If you want to assault power, you have to understand what power is. And the power belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The power does not belong to the parliaments. The power is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you want to alter riba. All you have to do is directly to the people. Go directly to them that they are the victims of riba. If you want to obtain, to gather the people around you, you have to remember what we repeat. إن وان يريدوا أن يهدوك فإن حسبك الله هو الذي أيدك بنصره وبالمؤمنين وألف بين قلوبهم لو أنفقت ما في الأرض جميعا ما ألف بين قلوبهم ولكن الله ألف بينهم إنه عزيز حكيم. If you put all the money in the world, you will not gather the hearts of the people. Only Allah gathers the hearts of the people. If you want to create, this is where the power comes in. If you want to gather the people, you have to put Allah in the center of it. The elite that mobilizes all this must be gathered because they want Allah. If the golden hour or the marketplace or economic reform becomes the center upon which these reforms will take place, nothing will happen. The people will be divided in states number two. The only thing that it will gather the people is Allah. So, hegemony is from Allah, and victory is by Allah, and the achievement is with Allah. Now, a politics of this nature will mean a different rereading of our possibilities. What do we stand for? First of all, the very idea of victory. And what is the thing that you want to obtain? And this is the first political reflection. If you say that the American Jewish lobby controls the world, or you can say that the Federal Reserve Bank and a group of bankers control the world, then you are making a theological assertion, and you are giving them a position that they don't have. Power doesn't belong to them. And therefore you have no reason to fear them. And not to fear them, it means that you don't worship them. Like Rumi said, be aware of what you fear, because what you fear is what you worship. If we maintain that the hegemony, that the power belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you have to admit this. Everything is the way it is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants it to be so. Every hair in your head, Abdullah, is falling in that particular direction because Allah wants it so. There is no one hair in your head that differs from His will. And if that is the nature of power, the very reality, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in charge, then Abdullah, can we make it better than Him? Can we say to ourselves, this could be better? Because if you want it better, it will be different so already. So it means this: the world is already perfect. If the world is already perfect, why is all this riba going around? doing all this stuff? Why is that the people, large part of the people, are suffering? Because what Allah is manifesting is His own rububiyyah, His own majesty. When Allah says, if you do riba, this is going to happen, that's exactly what is happening. The world is the way it is in order to highlight, enhance the meaning of His power. Capitalism is the way it is so that you understand better. Maybe after all, we have to ask Allah, make it harder, because the people don't see it yet. Maybe after all we have to be is ready for the moment when His timing comes. And when He wants, everything will change in a dramatic manner. Every revolution in the world has been preceded by an event that it has triggered discontent. And I am telling you, the crisis that we are about to face will be stronger and deeper and more dramatic than anything the world has ever seen before. Simply just by the scale in which Riba has reached. It could possibly be that what will start as an economic crisis, it will turn into a military conflict and a World War III scenario. Maybe the things that we are facing, except World War III is not fun. Because World War III is a nuclear war. The world is perfect. Allah is the perfect clock maker. He is meticulous in His timing. When He wants the things to turn, they turn. But at every given time, He is not diminished or increased. He is the way He was. And He is the same way He will be. The only thing that you have to see there that has importance to you is meaning, is to understand the time that we're in. Refrain from transforming a political discourse into something that resembles economic reform. Use the opportunity in order to highlight what is really significant, which is La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Tawheed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I wanted to, like I suggested to my sheikh, I would not be here speaking about these matters in Malaysia. If I wanted an economic reform program, I will be in the United States. All the people who have written to me and have acknowledged everything I have written, they are in the West. The people who have said this thing that you have said about the guilds is in the West. The people who have acknowledged us in public, the only people that they have commented what Kelantan did during those days was in Utah, in the first conference about gold currency that took place there about 3 years ago. Habib Dahinden was there. And he said that the end note was about Kelantan. The people of Kelantan have started the revolution. While the people in Kelantan did not know what was happening. If I wanted that, we will be there. Abdullah, we will have already 20 wadiyas in the US. 20. And we will probably be working with the government of South Carolina. And my sheikh told me, when I once confronted him with this idea, he told me, yes, you can do that. but you have to do it with your brothers. And what he meant is the people I pray with. If we don't do it with our brothers, all these things will have no meaning. Riba is nothing, has no entity, if it is not the way of reaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Riba in itself is nothing. But from that, you can understand the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To understand Muamalat is not that you have become now acquainted with ideas and words that you can completely blast out your neighbor. You can completely flip him out. You can tell, you understand currency, you understand markets, you understand this. It's not about that. The only thing that this has value, this gathering has value, and has political meaning, is if we are capable of highlighting, let the people understand, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. He said, don't you see? Don't you see? If you want to understand Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his glory, if you want to understand the might of the Sharia, it is in this discourse. For it is in this that the whole world is going to turn. And this is our opportunity to speak about Islam in a manner that has not been ever heard before. The aim should not be the elimination of riba. The aim should be to remind the people to trust Allah, knowledge of Allah. If you focus on this, if you are capable of translating, of understanding this, if you understand that the hegemony, to break the power is not to break the parliament, but to conquer the streets, to conquer the hearts of the people, then you have created real freedom. If we are capable of translating Muamalat in something that it does not depend on a political representative, but it's something that you can do yourself, then you have given freedom back to people. The beauty of the golden era, and the reason I like it, is that every single individual can make the choice. You don't need anybody to legislate. The legislation is already done. All you need is one individual that says to himself, I prefer to transact with a silver coin. And if you can bring this to every individual, and you can change the heart of every individual, the revolution will be unstoppable. The events will work in our favor. Allah has already won. What you are facing is not power. It doesn't have hegemony. It is the absence of power. Its influence over the world is not based on power, it's based on ignorance. It's like the power of darkness. It only exists as long as there is no light there. Riba is a disaster to the world. You want to find means? Please don't think of money. Think of the entire world. Everything in this world is already saying riba is haram. The US dollar is saying riba is haram. It's literally saying it. And if you don't see it, if you see in the US dollar what Correa sees, money, then he is already under the spell. But there is another way of looking into the matter, another type of discourse, another way of reaching out, which is the way of Sidi Hashim al-Musdub, who was a member of our tariqah, a murid from Sheikh Ibn al-Habib, whom I had the opportunity of meeting in the first Ramadan, the second Ramadan of my life. It was in the year 1986. And we were in Morocco. And I was with Sheikh Abdul Haq. And we was to visit this man, who was a Musdub. And we entered into his house. And as we entered, he started crying. And rivers of crying. And he was an old gentleman. And And when you see an old gentleman crying, it affects you. And he said something in Arabic to Sheikh Abdul Haq, who was traveling with me. I didn't understand a word. But when Mullah Hashim left, I asked Sheikh Abdul Haq, why is he crying? And he told me this story. He said, I'm crying because I cannot go out during the daytime, through the marketplace, because his house was just on the marketplace. I have to wait until the evening to go out, because the people are trading with money that has Riba written in it. Now, at that point, I had already finished my first book in Spanish, one critique of economics, an Islamic critique of economics. And I thought I had discovered something unique in realizing that the monetary system in Islam is different. And there was this man that, without any deductions, he could see Riba written in it. So consequently, Abdullah went to Facebook and took a bill and wrote Riba in it, saying, you see, I can also see it myself. But this man saw it written in it. That is wisdom. And he took the position, a radical Baha'i understood. It's not somebody that you follow. He took the position of not witnessing, not going through the marketplace and witnessing this transaction. Because as the hadith goes, and Riba is cursed for the person who offers, for the person who receives, and the two witnesses. You cannot even be witness of Riba. So, when I left, I was saying to myself, who is the madman? Is it Mullah Hashim, the Musud, or is it the entire society that has gone crazy and they have lost their mind? Maybe he is the only wise man in town and everybody has gone crazy. He could see, but he could not create a political discourse. And his tactics will not change the marketplace. He knew more than any one of us could see, but he could not transform it into a political discourse, and this is where we are. You have to create alliances. You have to make it physical. You have to make it practical, even if it is on a smaller scale. And you have to understand hegemony. You have to understand that to achieve power is not to change the realities. The only thing that it will alter the realities is to gain wisdom. The key to everything that we do, fighting against Riba, is in order to understand that everything is perfect. And that the changes will be subtle. And the victory belongs to Allah. That a small thing can trigger the whole thing. Latif. I like Latif. Because that's the way the Sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with creation. That he can change just the one butterfly in the Amazons can create a hurricane in the Pacific. Because everything is interconnected in ways that we cannot see. Malaysia is our first environment where we have made the first changes regarding Dinar and Dirham. But if you ask me what are the best scenarios in order to achieve a complete transformation of in terms of Muamalat, my answer is Indonesia, and Pakistan. And the reason for that is the level of discontent that you can find there is already unprecedented. The people will riot, they riot continuously. The only thing is that they don't have a political discourse. There's no analysis of this. You can gather them, you can amass them, you can move them forward relatively easy. You just need one or two institutions that if you trigger them, then you can trigger the entire society. Alliances, like what we are trying to do with Muamalat, with Muhammadiyya, or what we can do with Nahdlatul Ulama. They are such a big institutions that if you take Muamalat, it already has 35 million members. It's bigger than Belgium. And we are that close to obtain that. Indonesia, not Malaysia. In Malaysia, I think it's a center from where we can operate and we can coordinate. And there is all the creation of the political discourse in terms of the rationality of it, I think, can be generated here. There are certain things that can be done in terms of, for example, the marketplace. I think there is a very good avenue of politics to bring this matter forward through the marketplace. And still, Kelantan is still there. There has been a change in the leadership of the Islamic Party, but they can be pursued. And we have already taken the first steps, and over the next few days you will see the first articles in Haraka regarding the Golden Hour, which I will be writing starting next week. And the plan is starting to assault again the Islamic Party and move this matter forward. But still, even if we take Kelantan, it will have, with the new tools that we want to put into place, changing the legislation. What make the people refrain from using the Golden Hour when we brought it here to Kuala Lumpur into TDI was that the shops are saying, is this illegal or not? But if we can have a piece of legislation, a very simple piece of legislation, like the matter of the nisab in zakat, and bring the word Golden Hour written into the legislation, with that little bit we have a checkmate. Because then we can reach out. We can reach out every cooperative in the country. We were this close to have all the teachers, the cooperative of teachers of Malaysia, to endorse the Golden Hour. That would have been a major thing. The reason is that they are the ones teaching in the schools. If you have the teachers, you have an enormous asset with you. And they were that close. The only reason that they withdraw at the very end, it was the legal issue. The Sultan of Kelantan agreed to do the Golden Hour. The only thing that it would draw at the end is that there was somebody came and informed them that the central bank doesn't like it, and therefore it's illegal. If you ask any lawyer, they will tell you it's illegal. But it's not that simple. A piece of legislation, introducing, mentioning Golden Hour in relation to zakat, and we can overcome the entire problem with the central bank. Small affairs, latif. And with that, when we can restart again Kelantan, but do it 10 times bigger than before. Pakistan is a perfect scenario for me of what how location is important, and why it could be perhaps the first, if not, or the second ideal place to create a change in leadership, a political change of significance. And the inflation in Pakistan, as I said to you, is already rampant. Unemployment among the youth is above 50%. In certain rural areas is 70-80%. These are societies that they are not interested in pensions. No, in the West all they care is about pensions because it's an old society. But in Pakistan, something like 50% of the population is under 25, I think. So it's a very young population that they are coming into the workforce and there is no space for them. They don't need them. Can you imagine? And everything, all the economy is geared to export. The big companies are geared to export. They are selling jeans into the United States, but we don't have electricity. The electricity in Pakistan goes 1 hour on, 1 hour off. It just shows you kind of monumental. Corruption is unprecedented to levels that it makes UMNO look like they are wonderful people. It is institutionalized. People don't even question anymore. I mean, they know. The vote is totally feudal. So it doesn't follow political parties in the traditional way. It's the political parties that just plug onto the feuds. The landlords who literally employ everybody in the region, and everybody votes for them. That's simple. So in order to make a political party of entity, all you have to do is to have these landlords. And they vote by families, like clans. The Legaris, the Chaudhrys, they all represent certain areas in Punjab, and in that area, they have won every single election ever since the country was created. It's feudal, but it's not working, and the people are crying out. To create a political discourse is to bring it from where Mullah Hashim al-Musdud started, but transforming into something practical. We have to create a broad alliance. The natural alliance is the ulama. I have been in the last, just before coming here, I had a meeting with the largest school of ulama in Pakistan. Is the Jamiat al-Rashid from Lahore. Is the most prestigious school of muftis in the country. I made a presentation about the Golden Hour. They were absolutely totally fascinated. And two of their junior muftis, they came to my house. We had a further discussion, and we were creating a group which it couldn't gather before I came here. But on the way back, it will happen. A meeting with every other mufti that in Pakistan, in Lahore, not all of Pakistan because of the range, we are gathering them all that they are critical to Islamic banking, and they may be interested in these new proposals. Now, if we get the muftis to sign a fatwa saying the gold dinar is necessary to the nisab is not 20 mithqals but 20 dinar, and ask Muhammad for this piece of legislation to understand the subject. With that little bit, I give you the revolution in Pakistan. That little bit. So how far it is success? It's around the corner. How far it is the largest catastrophic show-off of the disaster of capitalism within minutes. The question is, do we have the means? The question is, are you ready? Are we ready? If these events start falling over one after the other, are we ready? And if you say you are ready, I'm surprised because I'm not. And I'm really trying hard to get ready. This time is a blessing. This time is a blessing in order to understand what the depth of this matter is to be able to understand, to come out of the closet when it comes to politics, to be able to open up, bring up the discourse to natural allies. We cannot live as a group of Sufi Muslims who have these great ideas. We have to communicate it. We have to expand it. Alliances. We need alliances. We need to create a specific, we have to bring it into practice. For example, one of the things regarding to the marketplaces that has come up to us, again, the means. What are the means? Everything are the means. Is the malls that they are collapsing. And we were approached, and you are familiar with our friend. It's somebody who is in charge of a mall, inshallah, a large mall. It's quite big, it's enormously big. But it has only 10% occupancy. because literally they are building far too many malls in Malaysia. So these malls is already a given existing infrastructure, and they need solutions. And we have offered them to transform it into a public marketplace and show them how you can create more revenue by making it free. You just need one, because the same company that owns this mall owns another several, for what we understand, another 10 or 12 in the region. It's a Chinese company apparently. Not surprised. And there is another 4 malls, Dr. Roman was telling us, that they're already in trouble. So if you make solution for one, you have the others. If you make one, then you can create an industry that it will be the most profitable industry for any one of you who dreams to have high politics. Is you become an expert in building public marketplaces. I promise to you, you will be busy yourself, and your children and your grandchildren will be building markets still in 100 years from now. Because this expertise is not known. There's nobody. If you ask anybody what is a public marketplace, the memory is forgotten. They know a little bit of the rules, but they don't understand the specifics. And without the knowledge that Islam provides, it is very difficult to find a clean practice. What is the thing that makes a market correct? And only Islam, and this is another thing that you can admire from Islam, from the politics of Islam, is that the marketplace, the laws of the marketplace are so perfect, so meticulous and so perfect. So what does it change? How do you translate the muwata, the word souk, into political discourse? Create a broad alliance and make it practical. Make it practical, bring it to the people, show to the people how to do it. Make it into the project of the open market of Kuala Lumpur and the open market of Johor, and create the tools and the expertise in order to bring this matter forward. When the crisis comes, and this is a mathematical certainty that it will come, we don't know when, and we don't dare to say when, but when it comes, I can guarantee you that the only solution for the people in the cities will be to the return to public marketplaces, the pasamalam. This is what the people resort to, because there will be no other ways of surviving. The only thing is that we want to elevate that from the present state of downgrading into something that it can be elevated and it can turn into a solution. So it will be the moment to be in down. It will be the moment to bring the discourse. This crisis will make the golden era be heard. When you have a double-digit inflation, the people listen about the golden era. I'm telling you, you bring the golden era into Pakistan, give me 3 months and it will be a wildfire. Wildfire. Because I don't have to argue. You just bring a rupee and you bring a silver coin and you ask the people in the street at random and you say, what do you prefer? You prefer this or this? 99% of the people will choose gold and silver. There's no question there. If you go to Europe, they have a different argument. The intellectuals understand what it is, but the people in the streets, they will say, the euro is wonderful. Of course it is. And to be quite honest, for the Americans, the dollar is a great thing for them. Except they have gone bizarre. But it's impossible to understand the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the enormous wealth of the United States without the US dollar. So political discourse is the transformation, is to open up. You cannot withhold it. You have to expand it, you have to pass it on, you have to find allies. You have to transform it into something practical. And when it comes to the means, we have to understand that everything is in our favor. Don't be mistaken with economic reform. We are not here to economic reform the world. We are here only to highlight the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The heart of this affair must be to remind the people about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we do that, then the hearts of the people will be with us. The good people will come to us. If you start saying money, 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 the wrong people come to you. But if you say Allah, 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 then the right people will come to you. And it's from this core of people that the changes will happen. It will always be a minority that moves the matters. But like Sheikh Arkawi says, few are plenty with Allah. Few are plenty with Allah. Just a few people can make big changes. It's just to be able to be at the right time, with the right discourse, and with the right level of flexibility. The thing that fears me more, which is what I have seen in the past, is that everything is our ideas, they become associated to ourselves. So in other words, if you want to do what we do, you have to join us. Okay? And if you take that mentality, then you are excluding people. It's the opposite, which is true. What you have to do is that if you do what we want you to do, we are part of you. It is this idea that is the new challenge. So, present the ideas in a manner that they are practical, and the changes can happen rapidly. What I fear in my heart is that this thing is going to start escalating so rapidly we don't have enough people to go there and teach. That's the thing that worries me. And I know that if we don't have enough people to teach at the right moment where it will be needed, it may become something else. You can make from a payment system something totally wrong. And the necessity of marketplaces can become into a very convenient way of still charging and creating pseudo marketplaces. And the people that they may take it over from us, they may be people that the only thing they want is economic reform. While the true spirit of this is that what we want is to tell the people, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Hegemony belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will not change today or tomorrow. No obsession with the parliaments and more obsession with what is happening in the streets. It's much more important that we change the market than we change the parliament. Much more important to change how the people interact with each other than who is the president of the country. Much more important. And then everything will follow. So, in conclusion, we started talking about Riba, the word of Riba. We looked into knowledge. Then we looked into several aspects of Muamalat. Yesterday, we covered the analysis, the different analysis that this understanding will offer you, that you will see the world differently, and how you can find new edges, you can find new solutions to problems that are old. For example, and we started today by speaking the example of Ecuador and Rafael Correa, and how somebody who is the very spirit of anti-capitalism, he is completely surrendered his country to the United States. And that's the irony of the time. And so there's no solution, there's no clarity, there's no wisdom. And we can offer wisdom where there is not. That political discourse in Muamalat means amal. Muamalat cannot be theoretical. If you want to understand Muamalat, use a gold coin. Muamalat, if you want to teach Muamalat in practice. Because Muamalat means practice. So if you want to teach practice, don't make it theoretical. If you want to teach practice, do it. And pass it on to them. That the small scale of implementation is never as small. It's never as small. The first market that we create that uses gold dinar throughout, that will be the beginning of the second. And from the second, the third, and the fourth, and the fifth. You need one model. It doesn't matter how small it is, as long as it is consistent, and you can create a flow of currency and exchange. That marketplaces and all the other aspects of Muamalat, one will follow another. We cannot have caravans without the marketplace, but it will follow. Once you have the marketplace, you can start creating caravans. You can start, in fact, creating a market of caravans, which is the proposal that we have given to these people. The guilds will come after the marketplace is formed. So there are subsidiary ideas that will come afterwards. Like you need the physical coins before you create the wadia. Without the coins, you cannot have the what, yeah? You can have an electronic payment system, but without the coins, it's absurd. It becomes bitcoins in no time. You have to have physical gold coins, and electronic payment systems must be a support of the physical gold coins. Like if you need a physical marketplace in order to create an e-commerce. If you don't have a physical marketplace, then the e-commerce will become an evil institution of complete control. Because you don't know what you're buying. And there will be intermediaries after intermediaries after intermediaries coming in. And there is a way of doing these things, which is a way of the amal, which means the physicality of the goods must be guaranteed. Like the physicality of the money must be there, the physicality of the goods must be there. Once you can guarantee this thing with a video camera, then you can have e-commerce. It will be a support of the physical marketplace, not a fantasy on its own. That's the difference. If you understand that, then you understand electronic systems. And Kirat, the big business of all this affair, will be the creation of the first Kirat company, which it will look like it will be like an auditing house. The job of a Kirat will be to audit the transactions. So when the Kirat agent comes back, he submits the papers to the auditor, and the auditor certifies. That will be the principle. And then you can rate the different agents according to the reputation that they have within the context of their group and by their performance. And with that you have gradings. And with that you can start growing, because in importance, Kirat will be like the stock exchanges today. So the creation of these Kirat auditing houses, it will become a major business. The creation of marketplaces, the organization of caravans, all these things will become major industries. Do we have something that can generate jobs? We have something that it will generate nothing but jobs. Can we professionalize what we are doing? That will be the process of implementing. That's why I'm saying, from the marketplace as a theoretical level, to create a consulting house, that you become an expert in building public markets. I saw this in New York, where there is a company that is specialized in, it's a consulting house on building a farmers market. The farmers market have been growing exponentially in the United States over the last 10 years, and you can see in the figures it's continued growing. So while Walmart has choked the country, the people have resorted to inevitably go back to farmers markets, which is a kind of low-profile marketplace. They still charge money, not very much, but they still charge, and it's only during the weekend or something. I think only 2 or 3 of them they have a continuous basis, so they don't have, it's only just temporary. But it's the beginning of something, and what this company has specialized in is what are the rules of the market, how do you organize it, what are the streets, how do you organize toilets, how do you organize everything regarding to the marketplace. And out of this they have LEB. Now what we have to offer is 10 times more complex than what this consulting group is offering in New York. And that will be the beginning of putting everything into practice. That is the way of Muamalat. And to remember that these matters that we have been discussing over the next few days, they are not part of any discourse today, not an Islamic discourse, not a political discourse, nothing. We are a very privileged few that they can give a definition of what Riba is. Very few people can. Very few people are capable of understanding what we looked upon before, which is the impact, how paper money affects the economy, the impact of inflation, the reality of inflation, the question of sovereignty that we are looking upon when we look at the paper currency equally. All these things are not part of the discourse. So, learn, teach, and implement. Victory doesn't belong to us. Victory belongs to Allah. La ghaliba illa Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.